For those of you that are looking to have your songs mixed, or would like to have your recorded tracks repaired and cleaned up to sound professional, whether it's for a podcast, removing a plosive from a vocal line, or taking a hum out of the guitar track, I do offer those services over at volitionrecordingstudio.com. If you're interested, do head over to my website, submit your request, and I'm looking forward to working with you on your next project. Okay, welcome back to part 2 of my video series, Music Production from the Ground Up. So for those of you that aren't aware, I do have a part 1 up already. And the first part was pretty much talking about making your decision and what your end goal is, and things you can consider, equipment you can get, and a checklist to go with if you're hiring a studio to work on your music project. So for today's video, we're going to talk about after making that decision. So let's just say you made your decision and now you're into the actual production phase where you're songwriting or song creating, whichever term works the best for you. All right, so let's talk about some tools you can probably use. So let's just say you're songwriting. The most important part and thing you should be doing is listen to a lot of music that you're trying to write. So that's the first key to songwriting. The second thing to consider as well when you're in the songwriting phase is arrangement. I know that's a very fancy term, but pretty much that's the same thing as saying the order of your song and what you should be introducing. So let's just say if you're working on a rock piece, let's just say maybe 90% of the time, or so far what you have is just pretty much all just guitar, bass, and drums. I would say when it comes to song arrangement, you should probably introduce some new elements, or maybe try to verify your guitar playing a little bit to create interest and intrigue. And this is kind of where song arrangement is very important, and it can really either take it to the next level, or if not done enough, it's just not effective enough. So I would highly recommend that you really pay attention to song arrangements, to how your song is structured. So even though all music essentially is a bunch of repetitions over and over again, there's obviously a part A, the part that stands out the most, which is the chorus, the hook, whatever it is, and it keeps repeating itself. You do have to introduce elements to break away from that, to create interest, to keep your audience still listening to your piece of music. Just listen to a lot of music and pay attention to the little changes and what they do to make them stand out, especially with their music. And then the third thing is pretty much is improvise, or simply, it doesn't matter the quality of what you have of your music or how far you are so far. Just try to do different things. Maybe if you're writing a rock piece, you can probably try to incorporate a piano somewhere at some point and just try to play the same melody on the piano, or maybe program it in a way and experiment and try different things and different sounds. Don't feel barred down, and because this is the point of creation at this point. But the most important part is just have fun and do a lot of research, see what people are throwing out there and try to replicate that. And then the next thing I want to mention about is song creation tools. So I'm gonna have to take a look at this because I'm pretty far behind with tools you can use to capture your ideas. So obviously number one is your phone. You can just simply record what you're doing right away, just to use that as a captured idea. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the idea is just to capture it, and then to have it like a memo and compile it later, and then just try to build from that. Another creation tool that you can use, and it's my personal favorite because I play guitar and stuff, is Guitar Pro. The cool thing about it is you can write out the tablature for a instrument, and then you can have it play back to you. So that's what I really like about Guitar Pro. Another tool you can use, and probably the one you're going to be using a whole lot, and the one I should have mentioned on the last video, is your DAW. Every DAW has some sort of MIDI component to it. So another cool thing you can do is just program whatever instrument you have in mind, melody, rhythm, doesn't matter, and jot it down on your DAW, which you're going to be using anyways. So the cool thing about every DAW is that they do come with some sort of like MIDI device that you can create like music off of, melodies, rhythms, but they're going to be there for sure. For you hip hop artists, Really Loops is probably your best friend. And another thing you can use, and let's just say maybe you're not much of a musician, you can use something like Magix, where it has pre-made samples. It's pretty much like a library of sound clips that's already well produced and whatnot. They do come off the downside for Magix is it does come off as a little corny at times. If you have no clue how to start, you can use Optune to create auto chords that will create some sort of chord progression to kind of get things started, to lay down some foundations. So that's a cool tool you can use. Oh, this is a cool one that phone users can use, is Hum On. All you need to do is kind of hum a melody, and then what the app does is that it kind of automatically generates a rhythm section to help back your humming melody. So it creates music pretty much just somewhat like auto music creating, but not quite. And then the next thing is Hook Theory Trends. So that's another very useful tool you can use. So Hook Theory Trends, unlike the other stuff I mentioned about up to now, is just simply for you to analyze, to research what chords, melody, notes that most popular music uses, and it breaks it down for you. And then there's finally, last but not least, ChordBot Lite, which is another great useful tool and very similar to the auto-tone chords, is that it does the same thing, and it essentially helps you create the chords for the music. So we get into the last phase of this, is pre-production. So the more you have prepared, the easier it's going to be for you. All right, if you like what you saw today, please consider to subscribe to this channel. And for more of that stuff, please stay tuned. You guys have a great one.